Come on in. It's that time, folks, for us to have the parking lot conversation. I want you to click the like button. Let me know that you're on. Click the like button. Let me know that you're on. Just a few minutes past 6 o'clock out here on the West Coast. And so we still got time. You should be coming out of your virtual, for some of you, and then maybe some folk went in person, Bible studies at your local congregation. But it's that time. It's time for us to have the parking lot conversation. So click the like button. If you're a regular attendee, let me know that you are down there and ready to go in the chat section. And click the share button so that we can invite some other folk to take part in our parking lot conversation. Okay, I see folk coming in. If you're just tuning in, welcome to the parking lot conversation on this Wednesday night. It is time for the Chaps J Show, and we're going to have the conversation over here tonight. And the conversation actually came up in conversation with someone else, and I want to get your thoughts. I want you to help me figure out how to pastor situations that I'm going to present here on tonight. So I need your help. I need you to just do those couple of things. Click the like button and then click the share button. Devon, I'm so glad to see you down there in the chat. Welcome back, my friend. And I'm excited for you all to help me come to some awareness of how we're going to move forward. And I think we're going to do this in a couple of different, over a couple of different episodes. So I want to make sure that folk get in on the front side of this. But we're going to be talking about family. We're going to talk about family, especially in this season when so many families are not going to be able to get together in the normal way. And I wonder if you have had the opportunity during this time to discern what is your role in your family. That's the question tonight. And I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and hearing your reflections as we have this parking lot conversation on tonight. We're going to talk about family, and I want us to specifically start out this whole conversation about what is your role in your family. What role do you play in your family? So don't click off. Stay tuned. Stay right there. I see you coming in. I'm talking to you. I'm speaking to you. Don't go anywhere. What role do you play in your family? Let's have that conversation. You don't have to do a whole lot of a critical thought, but what's some of the first things that come to your mind? What is it that family expects out of you? Or has your role evolved over the years? Or has it shifted? Did family shift? You know, there's a whole lot of dynamics there. But I want to hear from you, and I see you all tuned in, and I'm so glad that you're here for the parking lot conversation. Jump down there in the chat and let me know, what role do you play in your family? I think that's a great start for us. And it's a question that so often we do not discuss. It's a question that for many, so many are unaware of what they truly bring to family. And some families have expanded. Some families do not look the same as the traditional family. So the question becomes, what do you bring? What is your role? What is your role in family? I had something totally different laid out, and about midway around this afternoon, I was like, this is what I want to bring to the table on tonight. What is your role? Hey, Constance, I'm so glad to see you on tonight. And I know we're going to have some folk, because I think this is a really good topic. I think this is a topic that is needed, especially for the upcoming holidays. And then you'll be able to discern why you're missing certain folk and why you're not missing others, family members, or why you feel drawn to call this family member versus that one. Let's have the conversation about what is it that you bring. What about the calls that you receive from folk who are saying, you know what, I haven't heard from you. What's going on? So let's just talk about that. And it looks like Constance is got us going. I'm gonna throw it up on the screen. I'm the one that pulls everyone together. So I'm the peacemaker. Now I think that's something. First off, that's a vital role. Let's talk about that. The individual in the family who brings everyone together. Let's have that little conversation. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about what is your role in the family. All right. Constance has us kicked off here. And I want to ask you this question, Constance, and I hope that you'll share down in the comments. Do you feel that this was a role that you selected, or were you almost pushed into this particular role as the person who brings the family together? I'm so glad we have folk tuning in, and I hope that you'll click the like button as you're watching and click share. We're talking about family on tonight. Constance says that she is the one in the family who pulls everyone together, and she's the peacemaker. I think that's a beautiful role. Now, my question to Constance is that a role that you applied for and wanted, or were you pushed into that role? Is that a role that you desire to have? Because that kind of role comes with a lot of weight. And there might be somebody that is tuned in right now that is watching that has a similar role to you as the person who everybody in the family. Can you imagine that? Everyone in the family uses you to be the mediator or the go-between. Now, I can relate to that because so oftentimes growing up, being in my particular family, and having just been in a household where my parents were divorced and gone their separate, I had to learn how to speak almost a language, two different languages. And so how do you be the go-between? How do you be the person in the middle? How do you talk to everyone? Is there anybody else that might be tuned in that might feel the way, or that might be in a similar role as what Constance is sharing, where you are the person that everybody says, you know what, there's a whole lot of chaos going on in the family right now. There's a whole lot of disorganization. Our folk are just not communicating. Who's the person that we can go to that is the one that everybody will listen to and will receive the message? And Constance says she's that one, and she is the peacemaker, which means that there might be some family disputes. Families have disputes. Every family. There is no white picket fence. There's, that does not truly exist. Every family at some shape, form, or level has some kind of argument. Things don't always go right. They have disagreements. And so Constance suggests she's the peacemaker. She is the peacemaker in the family. And so Constance, if you don't mind sharing, And if you're still on, I hope that you'll just tell us a little bit about that. All right. So we've got at least one person up there. Devon says, I'm the business handler and the information giver slash provider. I want to let's talk a little bit about that, because immediately when you say the business handler and the information giver slash provider, I can immediately think of several people in my family who are the business handlers. And now something about that is unique, because when you think of the business personality, you don't necessarily think of the person who is necessarily warm. This is necessarily the person that's gonna run and hug you when you come through the door, but they are gonna make sure that things get done. That individual is going to make sure that things get done, that folk have what they need. This is also the person where you might not want to hear what they have to say, but they handle their business. They watch their finances, all of those kind of. And at the end of the day, um, this is the person where people might knock heads with more often in the family, just based upon the fact that they don't always run on emotions. They don't always uh, they are not always swayed necessarily by tears or what others in the family think of them. Okay, so let me put that back up there. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about family on tonight, so don't go anywhere. The question is, what role do you play? I'm talking to you, not just to the folk that's already down in the chat, but you that just tuned in. What role do you play in family? That's the question. And you are part of this parking lot conversation. So I want you to jump down there in the chat. Yes, you jump right down there in the chat and let me know, what role do you play in family? And Devon has shared that he is the business handler and information giver slash provider. Now, he goes on to suggest that he switched. He said at one time he played the peacemaker before, and he said that is a tough role. So, Constance, I think you have some support there and some backup that being the peacemaker in the family is a weighty task, and I know a lot about that. And I have enough awareness of that, just because I don't simply play peacemaker within my own family. I play peacemaker in regards to so many different relationships and in so many different venues. So I definitely understand that. And the peacemaker role can take such a toll, but so can the business handler, because even though the business handler is the person that people expect stuff is going to get done, oftentimes people don't always put two and two together. The business handler does have feelings, okay? The business handler does have feelings, but because nobody else in the family really wants to play that role, a lot of times the business handler or the person who's the information giver or the person who makes sure that everything is squared away, sometimes that person has to walk a lonely journey. That person has to walk a lonely journey in regard to how they are cared for in regard to their feelings and their emotions. And that too can play a heavy role. All right. Constance, thank you for chiming back in. We got a follow up to Constance. I didn't select, I was pushed. All right, I hear that. I was pushed. I just really tell them to get over the mess with my parents being divorced, and I've had to learn that family is important, and there is nothing that we can't get over. And that's something that's let's have a little conversation there, because as I mentioned, family changes. The dynamics in families change. And oftentimes, uh, in disagreements and, families don't always handle that well, if that makes sense. Families don't always handle disagreements well because there is lack of communication as much as they might submit that they are communicating. But there are a lot of families that do not communicate well. And when those shifts happen, instead of having open and honest conversation about it, people go to their house and decide, well, I'm not going to call such and such, or I'm not going to talk about this, or we're not going to have that subject, or that's your kinfolk, that's your side. I'm not in that no more. That you go deal with that crowd. And so it can be a heavy role for an individual to play. Any individual, it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, nothing like that. And even age, it there's no respecter of age there. So I think that piece has a great deal to do with uh the peacemaker themselves. Now, if you are in that role, the question then becomes, how do you do your own care for yourself? Because being the person to carry that load, the same as the business manager of the family, and I think we all have one or two within our families. But how do you care for yourself? And Constance, you said, a lot of times you just tell them to get over it. Now, I'm pretty sure our approaches are probably different. I think the point is to get to the same end, and make sure that we can have the same, to get to some kind of resolve. So I think for me, the question becomes, uh, you know, do you, how do you take care of yourself when you are the one who's, you didn't ask for this, but you were pushed into the role of being the go between the families. All right. So I would like to get that question. How do you do your own self care after all of this time, after being in the role? How do you, as the peacemaker, how do you, as the person who helps to bring resolve, helps to bring calm to the family, how do you find uh time or make time to care for yourself? What does that look like? Because after a while, and I will say to you, after a while, even in my role, if I don't maintain and watch my own self, after a while, you begin to resent people that you love. You begin to resent folk that you love, and it's not intentional, but you just get tired. You get tired of having to be the one. And so I would be interested to see how it is that you take part in caring for yourself as the peacemaker. All right, all right. Let's talk about this. Yeah, the business handlers. Devon said the business handlers are the Aunt Terrys of the family. The Aunt Terry. I think I know what you're talking. I think you know. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. And there's nothing wrong with the business handler. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the business handler. Let's just talk a little bit about that. If you are tuned in, what have you experienced from the business handler? I'm going to put that up there. Devon, I think you did a great job. Aunt Terry, if any of you remember Soul Food, you remember the many family dynamics. And maybe that's something I should share on the front side of this, just a little clip of that film. But you remember the varied dynamics within that movie, and just specifically within that family. What have been your experiences with the business handler? And Devon is one who says that's the role that he's in right now. I'd be curious, one, Did you select that role because at one time you said you were the peacemaker, or maybe it just shifted now, and you were kind of pushed into the business handler roles? Maybe the previous business handler in the family got tired and just not able to do it no more, and you were the next in line of being able to handle that kind of role. But like I said, so oftentimes you have to suppress that person, suppress in order to move forward. If we just kind of reflect on her role, Terry's role from Soul Food, we will remember that she was lacking in a lot of areas, a lot of personal areas, not because she desired to, but because she felt the need that this had to be done because nobody else in the family could do it. And so she was almost starving herself in other critical areas of her life, all the way down to her sex life. All right. She was starving herself. So and what that looked like, and that's not a healthy place for anybody to be in. So the question then becomes, for the business handler, what have you experienced from that role? And are you in that role in a healthy way, and one that will allow you to still experience the joy of life and the joy that comes with being who you are, and the things that you desire to do? Because there was a place within that very movie where Terry becomes resentful. She just she becomes resentful, and she, to an extent, had, I believe, had a right to be, but at the same time, she chose to not care for herself in moments where she should have said, I've got to care for me. So if you play the role as business manager in the family, I want to hear from you. Drop down there in the chat right now, and just let me know your thoughts. It doesn't have to be, your words don't have to be poetic or anything like that. But what have you experienced? What have you experienced, or what have you experienced from the business handler or the family member uh, in your life who plays that role? What have what have you experienced? I'm going to get just a little water right there because I want to hear you all's thoughts. What are you all's thoughts? What have you experienced from the business handler? If you are just tuning in, don't forget to click the like button, click the share button, and let some folk know that they can tune in and join us right now as we are having this conversation. But what role do you play, and what have you experienced as the business handler? Okay, Devon says, definitely wasn't pushed, but when my grandmother got Alzheimer's and I moved home to help out, that definitely was the start of the shift. Okay, this is very important. Part of self-care for me is recognizing I can't do everything nor make other people handle their business. Okay, let's have a little conversation here because I think that's a great piece, Devon. Um, there was a shift, and the shift was sounds like it was when your grandmother uh began, as you said, she got Alzheimer's, or she was diagnosed, I'm sure, with Alzheimer's, and you moved home. So a lot of times, just based upon the generations, there are shifts. There are shifts within families. And I think I said that at another part. There are times when someone in the family has a shift, and then someone next in line has to step up to, um, fill that role? Or they feel led to fill that role? Are individuals in the family decide that they feel that that individual is the one capable of filling that role? Um, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now let me just throw this out there. Have have any of you have any of you um ever decided this is a role that I do not want? And have you, shared that with a family? Have you ever felt comfortable saying, I don't want this role? I don't desire this role, um, because this is not for me. Now, I'm not saying that if you're in the role and you don't mind playing that role, that's totally fine. But I wonder if there's anyone out there who has said, this ain't for me. This ain't my thing. Y'all find somebody else. And they go on about their business. What kind of led you to that place? I just want to ask that question because there might be somebody out there who has done that. All right. So let me put Devon's statement back up there. Part of self-care for me is recognizing I can't do everything, nor can I make other people handle their business. Now, I think that's so important. I really think that's really important for us to have that conversation, because within any family, even going back to the peacemaker, all right, even going back to the peacemaker, there is no way, absolutely no way, that you can truly desire to handle everything on your own. There's absolutely no way that you can do that. All right. So the only way to move forward, I think, is having an awareness that there will be some things that are just out of your control. All right. There's some things that are just not in your control, and that's okay. All right. And it starts there. It definitely starts there. So I agree with Devon. And at the same time, especially when it comes to adults. Now, I'm not going to talk about children because that's a whole nother conversation within itself. But when we're talking about adults, anybody that's, to me, 18, that still might be sketchy, but 18 are either definitely, we're talking 20 and older. If you can go and get a 9-to-5 job, then you're old enough to start making some kind of decisions for yourself. And there is absolutely no way that you can make other individuals in the family do what they're supposed to do. So I agree with that. You cannot always, you can't make that happen. If folk have to want it for themselves, all right, as much as you can want it for them, and that comes with anything. So I appreciate that, and so I think those are two great self-care pieces. First, to know that you can't handle everything, and then two, know that at a certain point, folk have to be able to take um, um, responsibility for their own self when they want something out of life, if they want something out of life. All right. Thanks so much, Devon. Jonathan, my goodness. Hey, I think you're a first timer. You're definitely a first timer, Jonathan. Thanks for tuning in. I'm kind of a one-man show over here. But Jonathan says, I am the grounded thinker, or the logical one in the family. I absolutely love that. He goes on to say, if there's something to dispute, I'm the one to be the decision-making person to what's right. Now, tell us a little bit about that because I think that's so unique. I do think that it kind of runs alongside the business uh, minded or the business person of the family, not the same lane, but it almost sounds as if you are of the one where individuals desire to receive wisdom. And that's a unique role to be in. I'm gonna put that back up there for everybody to view Jonathan's comments. I am the grounded thinker or the logical one in the family. And if there's something to dispute, I'm the one to be the decision making person to what's right. Now, that's a critical role in the family. That's an absolutely critical role in the family because um, you're the person that helps to steer. If that makes sense to you, and if I'm off, let me know that I'm off, and we'll swing it back around, and you can better clarify to me on this side what it is that you were suggesting. But when you're the grounded thinker, when you're the one who does your absolute best to process and to get to a place of clarity where you can see things in a logical place, um, that to me suggests that individuals come to you for wisdom. So oftentimes people try to relegate wisdom always to the older person in the family, and that's a great number of us have individuals in the family, older, who I know we can go to for wisdom. But what happens when you're the younger one and people come to you as the individual, as that loved one who is grounded? Okay. That's such a unique role because you have the ability to change and to shift the course for families. All right. And that's a very that's another weighty role. You know, you all, as we're talking about this, can you just um consider, just consider what it is that is on your shoulders, each one of you that's tuned in. And I see we got one or two folk that are joining in. I hope that individual will click the like and click the share button. Don't hide out, let me know that you're on. But that's a weighty role for you to have. That's an absolutely weighty role. All of those we've talked about, at least three so far. We talked about the peacemaker. We've talked about the business uh uh minded individual in the family, that everybody sees you as the person to come to when it comes down to making business decisions. And now we're talking about the grounded one, the grounded thinker, the one who, the logical, the wisdom. You are the wisdom of the family. And those are heavy roles. Those are heavy roles to play, and they can take their toll after a while. All right. They can absolutely take their role. Jonathan, what has been some of your experience as being the grounded thinker? I'm not sure if you're still on, but if you're on, what has been your experience as the grounded thinker and the one that individuals say, you know what, we need to make a decision here? We got to call him. We got to call him. Uh, I want to hear from you. And if you're tuned in and you're watching, um, if you're in the similar role to Jonathan, um, what has been your experience as the one where individuals in the family say, that's the wisdom? That is the wisdom. That's the one that we depend on to handle uh, making the final decision. We can trust and know that he can, lick the tip of it. The wind is going that direction. That's really something, okay? That's something to be in that role, and that's a weighty role, and that's another one where self-care is so vital and so important. All right. Uh thank you for sharing. All right, my father is on. I'm the free spirit. My goodness, and I am jealous of the free spirit. I have always been jealous of the free spirit. I'm growing and getting there in my own journey, but so often it was suppressed. Or rather, I suppressed it because, folk were building a box for me to be in, and as a result, oftentimes, and I don't mind sharing it with folks. If you all remember the story, just even in scripture of the prodigal son, and the prodigal left and went on. He went and enjoyed himself, did his thing, and the other brother was back at the house, still working, still trying to take care. And the prodigal came back, and had a big party, all that jazz. Um, and so a lot of times, especially growing up, even all the way through probably a college, I felt like the son that was at the house. Okay. And that's a hard place to be in. It wasn't until I was out of my master's degree program that I was somebody finally challenged me and said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I took that to heart. I took that to heart because I think it's so critical. I think it's so very critical. That role of the free spirit in the family plays a vital role. That person brings life. That person is often a life-giving spirit, and that person uh, just goes with the journey, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Oftentimes, the families try to look down on the free spirit. For whatever reasons, just because, and not necessarily just, individually, but we've kind of been conditioned as a culture, as society to not appreciate. But heck, I'm an Aquarius. I think we do pretty good. I think we do pretty good in the month of February, but it has taken me time to grow and to both to embrace that part of myself, for sure, because I resented. It was like I was sitting in the house, I was watching the prodigal folk out there enjoying and doing their thing, living it up, having a party. Now I'm not saying that they didn't run into, the prodigal son didn't have his own issue. We know the story there, but he went. Okay. He went, and I was back at home being sour. I was stuck with the business personalities. I was, then I was stuck being the mediator and trying to make sure things stuck together. And so, finally, I had an individual that said, "What in the world are you doing? You don't have to be behind this glass. You don't have to view. Go get out there. Go be a part." And so I think when you get to a place where in the family you can appreciate the free spirit, because so oftentimes on the front side, so many families try to squash that spirit out of an individual, and they can really stomp hard on that individual. So if you're on the line and you're tuning and you're listening, and maybe you as well are a free spirit, I want to hear from you. Are you a free spirit, or what do you think of the free spirits within your family? And now I'm not telling folk that you could be free spirit and come and grab money from me and you ain't got no job of your own. Now I'm just gonna be honest with you on that. But that being said, if you're a free spirit and you got a roof over your head and you making it do what it do when it comes to making sure that you are cared for, your family, all of those kind of pieces, I absolutely love it. And everybody falls on hard times. Um, but that being said, uh, if you got an individual in the family where you look at it and say, oh yeah, okay, maybe there ought to be some reconsideration of what it is that that person brings to the family that nobody else, because I can't necessarily do that. Like I said, I've had to grow into, and I'm learning to embrace and kind of do my own, my own thing. And it takes time of shedding certain things away and being okay with saying, man, I didn't realize I was that hemmed in, or man, who knew all of this was going on, or this is absolutely beautiful. And like I said, even when we're just talking about soul food, Terry resented folk in the family. All right. So I think we really ought to look at that movie. Maybe I could just play a little clip of that or something. I think that movie, I think it was Devon that brought that up. That was the perfect setup for a lot of this conversation. All right. Jonathan, glad that you're still on. I chose a different route in life, and my family looks at me for the different perspective. I don't usually speak my mind with emotion, and that's what the family has gravitated towards me for. Okay, very interesting. When it comes to all aspects in life, political, financial, spiritual, relationships, and things like that, I kind of just fell into this role over time. Being that I'm not living with my family anymore, they reach out, for my voice in the conversation. Okay, I absolutely love that, and thank you for sharing. Um, now here's a piece. A lot of families oftentimes can run on emotion. I mean, and we as individuals, let me put that back up there, folks. We as humans do a lot with our emotions. Now, let me say that, um, you know, that's one thing that the free spirit has that I've had to grow to uh, do better at, is embracing my emotions, because we all have them. Um, to Jonathan's sharing, there is something for being able to have the emotions and then being able to place the emotions in you're not suppressing them, but you can come to a place of clarity. I think that's the word I want to use there. Um, in order to see life, to see the situation through almost like a diamond, where you just, turning it, and then you see through this prism, and then you turn it again, and you see through this direction, and you flip it up, and then you see it through. That individual is needed. And not only that, but you submitted that, you say, you took a different route, and, you don't live with the family anymore. And so, because you have various experiences outside of, the experiences of the immediate family, you help to offer, other views of the diamond that they don't see. And that's absolutely beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. So, like you said, when it comes to all aspects of life, political and financial and spiritual, and I'm sure the list can go on, you're able to provide a lens that the family needs, and now the beautiful piece is, within there, they trust your voice. They trust your voice. Now, my prayer is that for those of you that might be in a similar role as Jonathan, that that you will, if you're in this similar role, one, I pray that they trust your voice and that they hear you when you speak. You know, it's one thing for you to be in the role and for you to take your time doing your research, take your time trying to get to a place where you can fully be fully aware and have the necessary clarity to say, here's the direction that I would suggest that you ought to go. Or here's a couple of options. It's another thing when you're saying, okay, I'm going to do all of this work, and then you know, they choose not to listen. All right. Or they choose to, you know, take for granted the work that you're putting in. So let me submit. I think Jonathan has absolutely done a beautiful job in laying out, you know, what that looks like and the kind of role that that person plays, because that role plays into not just the business. Okay, that role doesn't just play into the peacemaker role, but it moves across all the spectrums. It moves across all the spectrums and can and helps to navigate best they can the family in a healthy direction, that's moving forward. I would like to hear your, I'm going to put that back up there. Thank you so much for sharing that, Jonathan. Are there other individuals out there? And I want to title this role as the wisdom. This is the individual in the family where we know we get the wisdom. If you're just tuning in, we're talking about roles in family and what role do you play? That's the question. What role do individuals in the family desire from you? From you. And Jonathan has shared just a little bit, or not just a little bit, has done an excellent job um, of sharing what that voice brings to the table. And for all of these various roles, I think it's so important that you know what your role is. If you agree with that, just send some thumbs up, send some hearts up, and let me know that that you are hearing that and that you agree. It's important that you know what your role is. Does that make sense? Send some hearts up, send some likes up. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. Because so oftentimes the reason that we have breakdowns in families. Now, hear me clearly. The reason that we have breakdowns in families is because so many in the family do not have an awareness of their role. All right? If you agree with that, let me know. If you disagree, put it down there in the chat and tell me here's why I disagree with you. But I suggest to you, so many disagreements happen in families. And it doesn't just have to be families. It can be, you know, in a business. It can be in churches. It can be, you know, in organizations and so on and so on. But a lot of folk do not have an awareness. We're talking about family tonight. Do not have an awareness of what your role is. So when I move over into some other lane, or I speak without awareness of why somebody in the family did something this way, with not having spent time to have enough clarity of, wait a minute, what is this person's role? Or why can this person say that and I can't? Well, it's not your role. You can't say that. They're not going to receive it from you. They're not going to hear it from you because that ain't your role. Okay? Does that make sense to you all? You all let me know, um because um it's it's time for us to really have those conversations. We have to know what our role is. And I believe and would submit to you that there could be the communication within families, within the family dynamic, would be stronger if we could do like scripture said, and with all things get an understanding. What is the understanding this time? What is your role in the family? And what is it that you bring to your family that nobody else brings to the family? Because once you have that awareness, well, then you could say, well, wait a minute. I'm not taking that on because you know why? That ain't my lane. I'm not dealing with that because I don't dabble in relationships. You couldn't ask me about business. Now, if you want to talk business, if you want to talk, I what kind of job should I consider? If you want to talk about what kind of do I need a Roth retirement? All of those kind of questions. If the family gotta make a decision in regard to healthcare, all of those things, then that's what we do. But when it comes to relationships, you might not be the relationship person. If this cousin and that cousin fell out over some dispute, you're not the mediator. Why are you gonna get in the mix? It's not your role. We got a peacemaker. We got somebody who knows how to do that. We have somebody who they will receive and will hear that from. And it might not be you. And then once you have an awareness of what your role is and what you bring to the table and what the family desires out of you, then you can do a better job of saying, nope, not for me to handle. This one ain't mine. Don't have to worry about it. And you can have a clear heart. You can have peace within to know that I don't have to take that on. And you can't, whether you mad or upset at me or whether you're frustrated, whether you feel I should have gone to the left or to the right, whatever it was, whether you felt I should have called this person and figured out something to help. Johnny's been strung out on some kind of drugs or something like that, or this person is down and out on their luck, but some of that was a lot, or a great number of that or reason of that happening was their own personal decisions. Well, then you could be okay with saying it's not for me. See, when you can get to a place where you can release it because you understand your role, you understand what you bring, well, then you don't have to carry unnecessary weight that is pointed and targeted your direction. So when folks start sending aggression your way because you decided, no, I didn't, I've given that person money, or I gave that person, I offered a ride to a job interview and that person decided not to do it, or I offered to help that person try to fill out an application for this or for that, or I gave this advice. Maybe you ought to try this direction. Maybe you ought to try this opportunity. Or I moved in a situation where they were fussing and fighting and they didn't want to hear it. Well, guess what? You can't don't turn your aggression toward me. I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm okay. That ain't who you mad at. Ain't me, because I don't got nothing. I don't have anything to do with that. I've played my part to the very best of my ability, and I will suggest to you, when you get to a place where you know what your role is, when you know what your role is, when you know what it is that you bring, you can be in a true place of peace. You could be in a true place of peace and say, you know what? That aggression, you got to point that it ain't for me. And then here's the piece. I'm not going to take that on. It's not for me to take that on. It's not for me to handle that. I'm not going to allow that to move into my inner spirit. You know, Howard Thurman talks about uh uh the island, you know, our island, and on that island there are angels with a flaming sword, and only you know, what we allow to get past those angels on that island with a flaming sword, it has to come by your consent, not theirs, not the person trying to get in, but it has to come by your consent. And so when you have awareness of what your role is, when you have awareness of what your role is, well, then you can say, you know what? That aggression doesn't get my consent. You got to go on back. And they can be mad all day. They could be mad for a month. They could be mad. It does not matter because it doesn't get my consent. It has no place to take over my life. It has no place to be giving me migraine headaches. It has no place to have me crawling under the bed trying to figure out why I'm not getting any rest at night or why I'm tossing and turning. That is that's for somebody else to have to handle that. And so I would submit just for your own consideration, um be mindful and become aware as you possibly can of the family dynamic and what it is that individuals desire out of you. And as you do that, as you become more aware, well, then you can begin to say, this doesn't deserve my consent. It has no place on my island, especially the island where me and God dwell. It doesn't get my consent to come on my little island there, because your island, even within families, your island is your place where you and God go, and there's no way where you can be the peacemaker if your island is all thrown off. There's no way where you can be the business minded individual for the family that you really desire to be if your island is in flames. There's absolutely no way that you can be the one of wisdom and clarity if your island is tormented by individuals, problems and situations and circumstances that you let come on that you never should have let past your angels with the flaming swords. Okay, so I hope um, that all of us who are tuned in and that's standing around here for the parking lot conversation, that you will take time to consider your role. And for those of you who have shared on tonight, thank you, because it is so important. It is so very important for us to know what our role is, because now here's the other tail end piece to this, and I know we'll get ready to wrap up. But the tail end piece of this is, if we know our role, well, now we can become more effective as a unit. Does that make sense to everybody? If we know what our role is, you know, then we can become more effective as a family unit. You can become far more effective and efficient as a family when you know what your role is. And when that happens, well, then the family is successful. Then the unit is successful. Then everybody begins to move in an upward momentum and direction. And so wherever you are, whether it's you know, just within your own household, you know, husband and wife, or you and your partner or whatever that looks like. Have the conversations right now. Some of the argument is probably because there's no awareness of the role. And then it moves out from there, extended family and the immediate family, all of those questions. What is your role? What do you bring? And what do you offer? And then once you have those questions and then you have awareness of what the other person is, now we can all move forward. Will we always agree? No. But we can move forward in a way that allows us to be successful and allows us to get to a place where everybody can begin enjoying and journeying life in a healthy manner. All right. My goodness, I'm so glad that you tuned in. Hey, man, I'm so glad you that you tuned in. I think you're a first timer at you. I hope that you are recuperating and recovering from your motorcycle accident. Um, yeah, you've had my continued prayers, and you make sure you holler at me. Come and talk to me. I'm glad that you tuned in tonight. So glad that you tuned in. I look forward to hearing from you. That being said, you all, this is the midweek. This is when I get to come on and just chat with y'all, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love coming on and having a conversation. And I want to make sure that without any doubt, uh, that one, that I love each of you, but beyond that, God loves you. God loves you, and the Lord has you. So that being said, be encouraged this week, and then reconsider. And for some, uh, I say that sincerely, reconsider. You might not be in the same role that you were 3 or 4 years ago. It may have shifted. And for some, consider where you are now and how is it that you're operating. And maybe it's time for you to do some self-care in order that you can better move in and the role that you currently hold within your family right now, because we can begin to make careless decisions when we do not do our own self-care in order, because without self-care there's absolutely no way that you can care for your others, that you can care for your loved ones. So that being said, you all, thanks so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining me for the parking lot conversation. And if you are a first timer, make sure that you click that live notification button right down there at the bottom. Click that button so that you get the notifications when we go live, especially if you are in the military. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, and this is your place where you can come and put your thoughts up and let me know what's going on. You can even message me privately there. All right. So that being said, I know it's late on the East Coast time. I know folk in they might already be asleep. I know the Central folk are probably getting ready for bed. And for our West Coast crowd, if you haven't had dinner, I'm about to go and have my dinner right now. But that being said, you can always catch me. You never know if I'll pop up toward the weekend. But you can always catch us on Wednesday nights at this same time, 6 o'clock or 1800 in military time. And I absolutely look forward to the conversation. So I will see you right back here, and make sure you turn on those live notifications. And then if there's somebody that needs to hear the conversation that transpired here on tonight, click the like button. And then the biggest button you can push is share. Push the share button and let some other folk tune in uh, to hear the conversation. Thanks so much. And as always, chaps out. Good night, you all.